Fanboy.com.
This is Part-Time Fanboy. My name is Kristian Horn. I'm here with Josh. Josh or Joshua?
Either one. I usually just go by Josh.
Oh, okay. Josh S. Henaman, who is now, are you the co-creator or sole creator
I
or
am the sole creator of it.
ah
Yep, writer,
of
creator.
yeah, Bigfoot, Sword of the Earthman, which
Yeah.
is a fantastic new indie comic that's been coming out. How long has it been coming out now?
Well, we first the first issue came out in November of 2012.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that
So
long, huh?
yeah. So yep.
Oh, wow. Because yeah, when you sent me the original like batch of review copies, I think it was like the first four issues
Yeah.
like in
Yeah.
one packet. So how often have they been coming out? So November?
Well, early on we were trying to hit that bi-monthly schedule, and we were
Yeah.
kind of we were hitting probably about 2 months and 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then slowly, because I did that when I first started coming out with it, we made sure we had like the first three issues done,
Uh-huh.
just so we wouldn't have any, lag in any of the time. And then, gradually that lag time started getting larger and larger. So that's why it took so long to get the fourth and the fifth one.
Sure, sure, sure. So for people who don't know, like, and I don't know that I can, well, I mean, I've written a couple of reviews on the book by now. Like, what is Bigfoot, Sword of the Earthman? Because
Uh,
just the title doesn't necessarily
yeah.
let you know exactly what's going on. You've got Bigfoot, you've got Earthman. Is he an alien? What is this about Bigfoot? So how do you encapsulate it to people that don't know the book yet?
Well, for starters, it is about Bigfoot. This is the Bigfoot from, that we saw in the old Patterson Gimlin film. I tell people it's kind of a Conan the Barbarian meets Flash Gordon with Bigfoot on an alien planet,
That's awesome.
or simply put, Bigfoot with a broadsword.
Nice. That's really awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. I mean, how did you come about choosing? Well, first of all, I mean, were you a big fan of like John Carter,
Oh yeah,
like, and
oh
that
yeah.
sort of thing?
Yeah, originally when I first started writing the script for it, it was back in 2009, and I had originally titled it Bigfoot of Mars.
Uh
And
huh.
then about 6 months later, Disney greenlit the John Carter of Mars movie, and I'm
Oh,
like, I can't do it. Before it was like, you know what, this is it's gonna be a nice tribute kind of thing, and I'm like, no, nope, can't do it now.
yeah, yeah. We don't want to step on those toes for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's so. But then, why work with Bigfoot? Like, what was the draw of Bigfoot? Are you like one of those guys who like believes that Bigfoot really exists? Do you track Bigfoot in your basement on the internet? Because
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, Bobcat Goldthwait just made like a Bigfoot
Oh yeah.
like
I,
horror
s-
movie.
I saw that at Meltdown, which is Meltdown Comics in West Hollywood. They showed
Oh,
it.
they screened it. Oh,
They screened it,
wow.
and he was there, and so I went down there and saw that. A friend of mine has worked with him on some like music videos and such, and so he got me tickets for it. So I went down there, and it is incredible. I can't wait for it to actually come out, because right now there's still it's doing the festivals, and they're slowly getting it out there. But I'm waiting for that distribution for it, because it is a great found footage film with Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to an interview with him on the Kevin Pollock chat show,
Okay, yeah.
and it was an amazing interview. Anyone who, after you're done listening to this one, should head over to the Kevin Pollock chat show and listen to, the Bobcat Goldthwait interview, because he talks about like people who are like seriously diehard Bigfoot believers.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you can tell, I mean, he's coming at it from like a fan, view as well. I mean, he loves Bigfoot, which was just absorbed with, like I guess growing up as well with like a lot of people.
Yeah.
But so you can just tell he's like when he's talking to these people, he's like, "Whoa, tell me more, tell me," So
Yeah, and they believe it. So were you
yeah,
one of
it's
those?
no. I always say that I believe in the possibility that there is some undiscovered creatures out there. Just because there's, if you go back in like history, you talk about like ancient, Indian, legends, all of that, Native American legends and such. There's
Uh-huh.
so much out there about all these wild men, and it could just be crazy people, but there's enough that's like, I wonder, it could be. But do I believe that it's some creature out there rooting around in the
The
backyards
missing
of,
link.
yeah, that, nah. I'm like, I'm at the stage was like, if that's true, show me the proof. Don't show me any blurry footage anymore. Don't show me any of
Yeah.
this science, man. Show me the science part.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny because of the sort of things that you and I are probably into. A lot of people see me as like that I would be Mulder. I would be like ready to believe. But because of all the stuff that I'm into, like comics and
Yeah,
sci-fi, I'm much more of a Scully. I'm like, no, you got to show me the goods.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I need to see it. So, what was the appeal of Bigfoot?
Well, I've always been a fan. I grew
Yeah.
up in Iowa
Okay.
in the 70s, born in 73. So it was right
Ah.
around that time, that Patterson Gimlin film. I think that was like, I want to say 69.
Uh-huh.
So that was about the only Bigfoot image out there.
Yeah.
And we
Now, is
always,
that the
but
film like with the where it's
where he's
like
walking across
fuzzy?
like the
Yeah,
riverbed, that
yeah.
grainy footage. Yeah, it's that one. That was, as a
Oh
kid,
yeah.
I mean, you see that and you're like, oh my God, terrified.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in Iowa, I mean, we had some woods behind us. I mean, it
Yeah.
was only like 2 or 3 acres, but it was enough for oh my God, Bigfoot's behind there. Bigfoot's living in the backyard.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, that started the love of Bigfoot.
sure.
But I didn't think I was ever going to write anything about him until I saw, if you remember in like the first issue, you see the Mars rover.
Yeah.
And back in, it was 2007, the Spirit rover actually photographed what looked like somebody sitting on some rocks. So if you
Uh-huh.
Google Bigfoot on Mars, you actually see the image that this whole book is based on. I saw that and I
Really?
was like, oh my
Hold
God,
on
how
a
did he get
second.
there?
I'm gonna Google this right now.
Yeah, you'll see it.
Bigfoot,
Yep. Bigfoot
Bigfoot
on
on
Mars.
Mars. I gotta see this.
And from there, it
Oh
was like,
wow, you're not kidding. There is
no,
an actual.
I I saw that in 2009
Uh-huh.
and saw it on a site called cryptomundo.com. And it's a
Uh-huh.
great, kind of paranormal, kind of any kind of cryptid, all of that, creatures and such. It's a great site to see stuff and
Uh-huh.
read about. And I saw that. And immediately within 15 minutes, I wrote that opening that you find on the inner cover where
Oh
it's like the
really?
dying world needed a hero. And I emailed a friend of mine and said, hey, what do you think about this for an idea? And he was like, dude, why haven't you written this already?
That's great. No, I mean, I think that the basic because I mean, if you just say Bigfoot on Mars, I don't think a lot of people will get exactly where you're going. But I
Yeah.
mean, for me, the really ingenious thing was that there's sort of like a group of mystics, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. The
like
children of the blue is
yeah,
a we're
and
basically praying to the earth. It's all the ideas like, they're like us, if we were living here and we're looking, we're talking about the red planet, all of that. It's kind of the reverse. These guys, they're praying to the blue planet. They're praying
sure.
to, their
Yeah,
blue
yeah.
goddess.
Yeah, and so they pray for or wish or whatever for the greatest warrior on earth to come to Mars to help them, and it ends up not being a man, it ends up being Bigfoot.
Yeah, because he's a survivor. He's
Yeah. He's been surviving for a long time.
yeah.
That's so great. So how long from like script did it take you to or from that general idea did it take you to like flesh everything out, pull the idea together and stuff like that?
I had pretty much the idea of what the world was going to be right away. Once I said it's Bigfoot on Mars, what's he doing there? I mean, immediately it became, like a Conan. Like I said, Conan meets Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to have kind of that barbarian, but still have that super science, kind of like Thundar the Barbarian.
Oh
You ever
yeah.
remember watching that? I mean,
Oh,
there's so
absolutely.
many, growing up, like I said, growing up in the 70s and early 80s, there's so many of those TBS influences that I could pull from. That I was like, oh, this would be awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, immediately I had the kind of the world in, an idea for the world. And then I slowly just started with each issue, writing each one. And I knew where it was going to end. I knew what would happen at the end. But it was just kind of like, well, how do I get there? Where it's not just one long story that, this should kind of spread out. I wanted all of these little, like issue number 2 takes place, with these guys with this giant bug zapper in the middle of the desert. Issue number 3 takes place in a volcano.
Yeah.
And so all these little elements, that took a while to develop those. But it was just, one right after another. And it was kind of like I said, 2009 is when I first had the idea for it. I was done writing the 6 issues probably about 2010. So, I mean, it didn't take too long at all.
Gotcha. So was it conceived as sort of like a 6 issue miniseries, or?
Yeah, yeah. Immediately, right away, I knew it was going to be that. Like, because I actually was taking a course at UCLA for just the format of it,
Uh-huh.
and because
You
I
mean
was like,
how to
okay,
write comic books,
yeah,
or?
yeah, because I knew it was like I moved out to LA, typical film, we came out for film school, and I was like, I knew screenwriting format, but I'm like, you know what? This was the first idea that I had was like, you know what? This is a comic book. This is not. I don't have any, inclination that it's gonna, anybody's gonna buy it. Oh, we're gonna make a movie of this. No, this was definitely a comic book going into it. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, how do I talk to an artist? How do I get it down that they'll understand kind of the visual that I'm, speaking about? And that's
Sure.
why I started taking the UCLA course for that.
Oh,
And through
that's
there,
great.
we just workshopped it, and I workshopped like the first 3 issues, and then the next 3 after that were just completely, oh, got to finish it. And,
Gotcha. So, were you into comics before you came up with this
oh
idea?
yeah,
I mean,
oh
oh
yeah.
yeah.
I've always been, like I said, even as a kid, reading the first issues I ever got were like the X-Men right after like the Brood War and everything. Where
Oh,
it was really,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh wow.
So
So, like, what were some of? I mean, was that a big influence on you? The X-Men and the Marvel stuff?
yeah, it was I'd had a couple of comic books here and there before that. Like I remember one of the oldest ones I have is an old ROM comic book,
Ah, yeah.
Space. The one where Rick Jones shows up and he's in the hospital, and
Rick Jones.
um, so I had that, and then an off Legion of Superheroes book. But as a kid, I didn't really know much about them. I was like, oh, these are awesome.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until my uncle had given me about a good run of about 12 issues of the X-Men and New Mutants that had
Mm.
hooked me.
Oh.
And after then, it was just like, just buying comic books. And there was no comic book stores in the middle of Iowa. It was like, you had the grocery stores, and you had like the gas stations would
Oh,
have
wow.
whatever they got in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's the way it was when I was younger too. I mean, you and I are, I think, basically of the same generation. I was born 72.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely discovered like X-Men probably a little later than that. But I think my first big exposure was like reading a Dark Phoenix trade, like the
Oh,
John
yeah.
Byrne, Chris Claremont thing. And
Yeah.
that totally blew my mind. So, were you collecting and reading throughout adulthood? Like you just
Oh,
kept
yeah.
going?
Yep. It
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, once I got out of college was big. It was like right around that speculator boom. So it
Oh,
was,
yeah, yeah.
Image was, really, hitting their stride.
The
And
90s.
yeah, and then I got burnt out on it. It was like
Yeah.
right after the death of Superman. It was like, and like everybody else. I mean, I've got probably like 2 sets of the actual death of Superman issue.
Yeah.
Still in this
Worthless.
plastic, and
Yeah.
I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'd taken a little break for a while, but I kept going back. After that, I started doing trades. I started doing more of, like really honing in on particular like writers and
Uh-huh.
artists that I'm like, you know what, I'm following these guys. Once they come out with something else, then I'll buy that
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than just everything.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, you got smarter much earlier than I did. I only really switched to trades like probably a year or two ago,
Oh,
and
okay.
I
Yeah.
feel much more sane and happy because of it. Because
Yeah.
before that, it was very much like feed
Oh,
the
yeah.
addiction, just get anything you can.
And it's
So,
just so much like the world is so like it's so rich right now with all of like like Marvel and DC. If you talk about the big guns,
yeah.
it's so rich that you can't just like, oh, I'm just going to buy this one. You're like, whoa, what are they talking about here? They're also talking about something that's 2 other series, might not even hit yet. And you're like, I'm lost. I'm completely lost.
Yeah, yeah, it's just a little too much content. There's
Yeah.
too much going on. So, had you always considered this to be, I mean, you said you weren't thinking of it as a film, but as a print comic? I mean, was that always the, the
Yeah.
drive or?
Oh, yeah. I'm still, even though digital is out there, I'm still definitely a print guy. I still
Yeah.
love that, there was nothing I can't you can't really explain the feeling of getting that first issue that I had written and putting it in the sleeve, the plastic sleeve.
Sure,
I
sure.
wasn't prepared for that. And I mean, brought a tear to my eye. That was mind blowing. So I'm still that physical, that physical reader. I love that. Same
Yeah.
with trades, but I mean, I also understand the value of digital as well, especially getting it out to people who have no comic book stores around them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean the way the market is going, I mean they're slowly seem to be disappearing. But I guess like were you when you were getting into like cuz I'm assuming that what is it Brewhouse Comics
Yeah, yeah.
is your own imprint, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's me.
And
It's how I blended the three loves: Bigfoot, comics, and beer.
yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like a very daunting prospect, especially was. I mean, I'm assuming this was your first like comics project, right?
Yeah, yep. This
Yeah.
was my
So
first book. Yeah.
so you were like, I'm going to put my company together. I'm going to get my ducks all lined up in a row, as opposed to seems easier to me to just throw up a website and start that way. So how did you, I guess, gear yourself up to learn about the business or
Uh,
Diamond and all that stuff?
yeah. It was. I mean, it was all the information is out there. So I mean, people can if anybody's really serious about it, they can find the information. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a lot of great sites like the guys over at Comics Tribe, and
Oh,
that's Comics with an X. Comics Tribe. I mean, they have tutorials on how to what to do, how to get like a UPC code, how to I mean, that's just a great resource. Go to the forums on like how to find an artist, like Digital Webbing, Pencil Jack, all these places. So the information's out there, and so
yeah.
it's easy enough to find once you make that decision. But I mean, it's a huge leap of faith. You're like, what do I do with this? I have this great idea. So I mean, it was a long process. Like I said, once I'd actually written the whole first full 6 issues before I had made the decision to go ahead and self-publish.
Sure. Sure.
Because I was always, I'll do the first issue and I'll take that around to companies to try to sell that to them. Get, hey, you want this? Hey, this is the artist I have. This is what we're doing with the book. So we're trying to do that,
Oh,
but
so
not.
was that the original plan to like say maybe take it to Image or
Oh yeah,
IDW?
yeah. And I
Oh,
highly recommend that for anybody if they're, if they can get it in any of the, like the indie companies that do it. It's going to be a lot easier.
oh,
Granted,
really?
then again, I don't know. I haven't had one with them, but I would think that it would be because then you can have somebody looking at your work and going, okay, now, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what we're going to do for marketing. This is what we're going to do. You want to do a print run of about, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 books. It's going to be on this page in Diamond. You'll probably have someone to kind of hold your hand a little bit on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, that would be easier just because, like, and then if you know anybody in the industry, it'll probably help as well. But like I said, coming at it with knowing nobody, it was definitely, page one. What do I do? Okay, well, how do I find an artist?
Yeah.
Trying to do that.
Did you so did you have like a first issue completed and you went around and you shopped it or
Yeah, I mean, it took us about 6 months to do the first issue,
yeah.
and I submitted it to anybody who would submit like the unsolicited books, like Image will select it, Boom if you can get it into their hands. Archaea, they're another one. Well, Archaea and Boom are kind of the same company now, but
Yeah.
at the time, and then a couple others just to try to get it out there. And I knew it was a long shot just because I hadn't done anything else
Yeah.
before. And the artist I found, he had done kind of some anthology stuff, but we were just like basically just two new guys out there trying to get the book out. So I knew that was a long shot. And while I was in the process of it, I was like, you know what? We're done with this first issue. I think we can really keep going with it.
Yeah. Was
And
the
so it
first
was,
issue a lot was it the same thing that you showed me? Cuz the first issue is really a good-looking book. I mean, it's a decent looking book.
yeah, it's and a lot of that has to do with the printing that we did with it.
Yeah.
It was offset printing, so that's what Marvel does, DC, all of it, all of the every publisher out there has offset printing, that's when they're doing like 3,000 copies to 100,000 copies.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we went offset, and just because I knew that no matter what, even if I went to the conventions, I could sell the first issue.
Sure.
People would buy it just like, oh, it's Bigfoot. It's Bigfoot with a broadsword. They would buy that. So I knew
Yeah.
going into it, I would definitely, offset and get that glossy look, make it look, perfect.
Oh.
And then each one after that, I knew would be a little less. I wouldn't sell near as many copies. So I went digital printing with that, which is still fantastic, but it still has that, where the first issue is that, the perfect binding, perfect, sheen to it, the, glosses. Absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, I guess I mean, I'm surprised that because I mean, I've seen a decent amount of comics, obviously, and Image and IDW and stuff like that. And the quality of your book, I mean, there's definitely, and I said in my review where like maybe some of the middle issues look a little rushed as far as the line work is concerned. But that first issue and even the issues after that is much better than other stuff that I've seen on the stands. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
visually
thank you.
speaking. Yeah. I mean, so I'm just surprised that you might have gotten turned away, or not even somebody like would, consider publishing it. You
Yeah.
know?
I think, yeah, like I said, I think the majority of it probably is just that, I didn't have a name. I wasn't,
Uh-huh.
nobody knows who Josh Henaman was. People know who Bigfoot is, and then think about a Bigfoot, Bigfoot on an alien planet. You're like, yeah, right. We're not going to touch that.
Oh, no way. I mean, like I said in my first review, I think it's like probably I mean, it is probably one of the best ideas, like concepts, to come out of last year, or at
Yeah.
least for me, it was last year because that's when I discovered it. But
Yeah.
for I can't imagine somebody being so close-minded to say like, oh no, this doesn't work for me. Like that just doesn't. That's crazy. I don't know. I'm just surprised. So you didn't get any bites, and so were you like, I'm just going to go to conventions with this, get a booth, and sell it?
Yeah, and I knew doing research, I knew how to get it into some stores. Like there are a lot of great indie friendly stores out there nowadays,
Sure.
and all you have to do is look up any indie creator, and they'll have a list of stores where they're selling their books. And right away, hey, that's the store I'm going to approach, just because they love indie comics.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I knew, some of the stores out there, and I knew, what, hey, LA is a pretty big market, and there's a lot of, conventions around it, even branching off into like Las Vegas and stuff. I knew I could, go to some of the conventions there and slowly get the word out.
Oh, wow. So you just totally hit the pavement. You just
Yeah.
were like, I'm going to
Yeah.
do this on my own. Wow, that's really admirable. That's incredible that you did that. That's amazing. Well, let's talk a little bit about the artist. What's his name? Is Andrews? Is it
Andy Taylor.
Andy
Yep.
Taylor? Oh, okay. And I noticed that on the books he's listed as like, well, first of all, how did you meet him? How did you find him?
I found him through, like I said, I didn't know any artists at the time, so I had to put out an ad, and I put it out through a couple of sites, digital webbing,
Uh-huh.
digitalwebbing.com, penciljack.com, and because I approached probably about 4 or 5 artists before that, but I could never get anybody to commit to it.
Yeah.
They
Uh-huh.
either had other projects they were working on, or just for one reason or another, they couldn't, like I said, they couldn't commit to it. So I finally decided to put out an ad and let the artists come to me and say, "Hey,
Sure.
this is what I'm looking for. It's going to be a 22-page comic, paid gig. I make sure to put that so they knew going into it. And I didn't say what it was going to be, what, like any rates or anything like that. I said, what, send me your rates, send me, examples of your art. And after that, once I put that out, I got about 80 to 85 people responding to it throughout the world. So that was kind of cool.
Oh,
And then
wow.
just narrowed it down to Andy. And what was kind of neat was at the time he was living in Palm Springs, which is
Oh,
about, an hour and a half, 2 hours away from LA.
yeah.
But right before the first issue came out, he moved to Minnesota. So
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, with the digital age, it must have been easier for you guys to stay in touch, though,
oh
right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's 100% email. I do everything, it's easier to do that because I can get more information down
Sure.
via email, and I can go back to it. Whereas, like, I lose so much on the phone, I think, and I'm not good on the phone, so it's all email.
Well, you're doing fine on Skype.
Yeah.
So, what on the book? Well, first of all, it seems like there's a bit of a Bernie sort of like Wrightson influence to his work. I
Okay.
mean, was that something that, like, when you put out the ad, were you like, this is the type of art that I want? And then he came back and was like, I'm into like the sword and sorcery sort of thing, or this is my style, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah, in the ad, it said it was looking for kind of like the examples I gave were Mike Mignola, kind of Keith Giffen, if you've ever seen any
sure,
of his
of course,
artwork,
yeah.
and I always butcher the last name, Eric Canetti, I think is how you pronounce it.
I don't.
He's done a lot of what was the MTV show Eon Flux?
Oh,
He
okay.
did that kind of style. He added
Yeah.
to it, and so I
Uh-huh.
put that out, and I said, "This is what I'm looking for." And I mean, in the 85, responses I got everything from like Jim Lee clones
Sure.
to some who were just kind of rough looking, and I mean all of them were great, but I wasn't looking for like that superhero look. I wanted something that had kind of a little quirk to it.
Sure.
So when I saw Andy's style, I'm like, you know what? Hey, I think this looks spectacular. So I dropped him an email and said, hey, send me some more stuff. Let's talk.
Oh, that's great. And so he on the books he's listed as it's the credits are kind of like different. It's just it says line work by Andy Taylor.
Yeah,
Like
he does. Yeah, essentially he's doing the pencils and he's doing
yeah.
the inks for that, and then he also does the like the dialogue, all of the the captions and such. He does
Oh,
that.
really? Like the
Yeah,
balloons
yeah,
or
yeah.
the
He'll do
oh,
that.
so he
I
fills.
lucked out. He's a one man shop
Oh,
essentially.
wow. So is he filling, he's doing the lettering on the inside too and all
Yeah.
that stuff?
Yep. Yep.
Oh, wow. Because I just thought it was an odd way to kind of like list the credits. I'm like, line work? Like that's kind of strange. I mean, who came up with like the way, because usually it's like penciler, letterer, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I think line art basically means everything. For the pencils and inks
Sure,
essentially.
sure. And
I
do you
like.
know, does he work traditionally or digitally or?
No, he works. Yeah, traditionally, I've got the last page of the fifth issue. I actually have that. I kind of had.
Oh,
That was the one I think. Hey, if we make it to issue number 5, how much is going to cost to get the actual original artwork for the last page? And he said, "Man, it's yours if we get that far." So.
that's great. And so, how did you find your colorist? Because,
Yeah, she actually went to school with Andy at the
oh,
Kubert School, which in out east,
yeah, yeah,
in New
in
Jersey. I think
Jersey, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, so yeah, the two of them met there, and I was like, okay, now color wise, and he gave me a couple of examples, and her name came up, which is kind of neat. She's doing a lot of stuff for Boom now.
Oh,
She just did.
really?
Are you familiar with Cursed? I think it's either Curse or Cursed.
I'm
It's
not
the
sure. I don't think I've come across that yet.
It's by Tim Daniel and I can't remember the other writer on it. Um,
Well, either
there's a
way, she's. I mean, her colors go a long way to bringing out like the life to your book. I mean, I think she does a really spectacular job.
Yeah, and it's just amazing. Like you look at like the first issue, it's heavy in the reds and the pinks, and then the second issue you get a little bit of green coming in. Third issue's like almost entirely blue, and then the fourth issue, which takes place in the jungle, you get all these colors. Yeah, so I mean it's just amazing. It totally blows me away every time we get any of the colors in.
Yeah, I mean, it really is probably one of the more professional and like better looking indie comics that I've come across. I mean, you should definitely be proud of that because a lot of times, and I used to review comics for Ain't It Cool News, and
Yeah,
a lot of times you'll get a lot of indie stuff, and even on Part Time Fanboy, every once in a while somebody will come across the podcast, or I'll meet somebody at a convention, or so, word will get out somehow, and people are like, "Can I review this book?" And you get something, and it's just really, I mean, I try to be as positive as much as I can, but you get something, and it's like, "Oh man, I don't know." I don't know what to do. And this was a case of getting something and being like, all right. Like you like I got it and I was like, okay, I want to read this. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas
Oh yeah.
as opposed you don't
I used
dread
to
it.
review music, so I same kind of boat where you get something you're like, it's kind of not as polished, but you try to look for something, that say,
Sure.
there's got to be some fans that really enjoy this.
Yeah, no. Who did the logo?
Oh, that's Tim Daniel. Tim
Oh,
Daniel did that. He did the Bigfoot Sword of the Earthman logo, and he did the Brewhouse Comics
oh,
logo.
that's great. Well, they're
Yeah, and
both
he's like I said, he's one of the writers on for Cursed, and he also did anybody Enormous. I don't know if anybody read that. It was an image book it was like an oversized image book. It was like, probably like 11 by 17 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And it's also going to be coming out. That was like the one shot. Then the new one is going to be coming out with 215 Inc. They're a company out of New York.
Uh-huh.
But enormous, they're actually also making it into a TV series on.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be an online series.
Oh,
And
wow. That's great.
yeah, that's awesome. But
That's
yeah,
really cool.
he also does a lot of the logos, like Brian Bendis's stuff. I think
Oh,
he did.
really?
I want to say he did Powers and quite a bit. So he does a lot of image logos.
So was it through your colorist that you came into touch with him? Like,
No, I actually for the day gig, I had to go out to. I was training people in San Francisco, and I went to Isotope, which is one of the big comic book stores out there.
yeah.
And by then, I had some artwork done. I just wanted to talk to like the owner of the store and say, "Hey, you have any advice for
Yeah.
me to do stuff?" And one of the guys that he mentioned to me was Jason McNamara, who was a local writer, and he came down and was talking and came down to the store and was talking to me about logos and titles, and he's saying, "Oh, you want to have something that stands out on the stands, like it doesn't. If you're standing away for it, people will just come by, look at it, and see, boom, Bigfoot right there." And so he gave me the contact information for Tim, and so it was through just blindly going into a store and just striking up a conversation with the manager that I ended up getting into contact with him.
Oh, that's so great. And so, like, when I've noticed, in my last review, especially like with the way you've kind of like played the story out, like what was your sort of inspiration to, because I mean, up until the point that we've gotten to, and I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, it's been told mostly from the perspective of one character.
Yeah,
Like
a
Bigfoot
bagworm.
doesn't like his companion.
Yeah,
And
Aster Bagworm.
yeah, and so his companion, who happens to be a native of Mars, and he meets him, and he's sort of like a scurrilous like little guy,
Yeah.
just a little bit of a con man. But he latches on to Bigfoot because he sees, I don't know, opportunity there. So what was the inspiration for that? Like going it that way and making Bigfoot, because he doesn't really talk, or at least he hasn't spoken yet.
Yeah.
Like how did you decide to approach the story from that direction?
Well, I knew going into it, I didn't want Bigfoot to talk.
Oh, really?
I went into it with the idea that, hey, if this creature, this ape-like creature exists, he's not out there having conversations with people. He's not, very, his dialogue is not there. So I knew going into it, I didn't want that. So I'm like, well, how am I going to tell this story with this character? And from there, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have like kind of like this, a little sidekick to him who's kind of, we'll see a lot of the things through his eyes. And then through each issue, I give just enough that you see that Bigfoot isn't just some dumb animal. Like in the first issue, you look, he's just totally reactive, doesn't do anything, just flees. Second issue rolls around, you get the idea that, wait a minute, he kind of understands what's going on, with Bagworm. And then by issue number 5, I wanted the audience kind of to kind of earn that, hey, the emotion, the emotional impact of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, it's almost like a bit of a big risk to take, because I mean, the first issue, like I said, I mean, he's not speaking all that much, and like you didn't think it was risky at all to be like,
oh yeah, I knew going into that. And then I mean, you get some reviews where they're like, when's he going to talk? What's going to happen? Bigfoot would never use a sword, and I'm like, I want to say, just hold on, it's going to get there. You got to, it's a whole 6 issues, so we'll get there. We'll answer all your questions.
Do you really get people who say Bigfoot would never use a sword?
Oh yeah. There was one. It was online. It was early. I think it was right after the Long Beach Comic-Con in 2012. So it was after the first one. Somebody had picked it up, and then they were talking about it online. And the friend, he was saying, "Oh, Bigfoot, with a broadsword, etc." And then the friend chimed in and it said he would never use a sword. And I responded. I actually went online and responded to him like and said, you know what, I agree. I agree he wouldn't. This is a guy who's living out in the forest, wants to be left alone. That's all he wants, wants to eat, sleep, and do his own thing. So the story is why? Why does he, eventually, if he does, why does he pick up a sword? Why is it called Bigfoot, Sword of the Earthman? I didn't want him to be essentially I didn't want him to be kick ass right away.
Sure.
He had to work up to that part. It's that reluctant hero kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, it's kind of a testament to your guys' storytelling that you're able to really pull that off because I know that I didn't, but maybe some people could, like you said, grow kind of impatient with that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you workshopped it or showed it to other people, did anybody have concerns about that besides you or like?
No, I mean everybody was been leading up to like the production for it. Everybody for the most part has been like, "Oh man, this is awesome. This is going to be," they kind of knew what was going because they knew the whole story at that point. They knew Bigfoot was going to be reactive. I did have one guy who was like he wanted it to be definitely more more gonzo with it. Just out there, Bigfoot, fighting all kinds of craziness. And I'm like, I get that, but that gets tired after like the second or the third issue.
Sure.
It could be crazy and wild, but if you have all this emotion behind it leading up to that part where it finally gets to that, that big moment, then you can go crazy with it and then go crazy with it every time after that.
Oh, that's great. Was there something about Sword and Sorcery that you just really enjoyed, making this your first project?
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, like I know that like I've worked on comics like about superheroes and about like different sort of things because that was why I got into comics. I mean, I know right now there's a bit of a backlash like in indie circles like, oh, superheroes are stupid, but that's what I enjoyed. Was there something, were you always just like a Conan lover or stuff like that growing
More
up?
than yeah, I loved Conan. I mean, I grew up. It was weird. I didn't actually see Conan the Barbarian, the first movie,
Oh,
until I was in
really?
college. But I grew up
Really?
watching Conan the Destroyer.
Oh, the second one.
Yeah, I don't know why, but
What
that's the
about
one I
Dungeons and
watched.
Dragons? Were you into Dungeons and
Oh
Dragons
yeah,
growing?
Dungeons and Dragons. The cartoon I was into. There was nobody around me who actually played
Oh,
the
really?
RPG. Yeah, in Iowa. It wasn't until college that I started actually role playing more. But we were more into. Are you familiar with GURPS?
I have heard of it, but I've never played
Yeah,
it.
it's GURPS, Generic Universal Role Playing System. That was the system we played in college, and we played it a lot. And that was
That's great.
yeah, that was everything we did there. But yeah, but growing up, what we did, or what I was more familiar with, was a lot of like Beastmaster.
Oh,
Something like
yeah.
that, or like Ice Pirates. Those kind of movies that you would see on TBS.
Yeah. I mean, aren't you blown away by how far things have come? I mean, you mentioned the Beastmaster, and the other day, I forget, I was at work and we were talking about movies that we would watch when we grew up, like when we were kids, and
Yeah.
just like looking at like what the Lord of the Rings and like what other kind of like genre movies like that stuff was like bottom of the barrel when we were growing up. It was
Yeah,
like
there was a
low
reason why they
budget.
said Hollywood. If you said, hey, "I've got this idea for a fantasy," they're like, "Nope, shut the
Yeah,
door on it." There was
exactly.
a big amount of time where there was nothing they did for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me that us as a generation, like to us, that was enough. Like Mark Singer in like a loincloth with a
Oh yeah,
sword,
yeah. Or something like Krull. Do you
yeah,
remember that? That
Krull.
was
Oh
awesome.
God, yeah, of
The
course.
greatest, the greatest weapon in the history of cinema, the glaive.
Oh my God, I don't think I ever saw all of Krull up until I was an adult. To tell you the
Yeah.
honest truth, I think that was one of the ones where I just thought was a little too weird for me. I
Yeah,
was like, I don't know.
Liam Neeson's in it. How can you
Yeah,
go
Liam.
wrong with that?
That's so funny because I got into a debate online about Liam Neeson. All my friends were coming down on me because I was like, he's like, I looked up his age. He's 62 and
Oh,
he's like an action hero.
yeah, you look at him and you look at somebody like Ron Perlman. They've been doing these genre films for forever. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Perlman was in Ice Pirates, and then he did, the Beauty and the Beast. I mean, he's been, one of these great. like I said, sci-fi characters for since the 80s, since the early 80s.
Yeah, to me it's just weird because Liam Neeson has had such a distinguished career,
Oh
and
yeah.
now it almost seems like he's going backwards and doing like Steven Seagal movies
He's
and
like, yeah,
stuff like
screw
that.
it. I just want to have fun. Yeah, what's
Yeah,
the
just
paycheck?
show me the money. But the thing is that he's 61 and
Yeah.
he's doing all this. Like to me, that's just that blows my mind.
What was the movie where he was punching the wolf? What was the
The Gray, I think. I
Yeah,
don't think
I
I've
love
seen it.
that.
Have you seen it?
I actually like it. Yeah, it is actually pretty
I'm gonna
good.
rent it. I hear it's really good. I
Yeah.
hear it's really good. Yeah, no, my friends were getting on me because I was like, "Oh, Liam Neeson, oh, he's 61," and they're like, "Liam Neeson's awesome. Shut up!" And I was like, "Okay, all right, everybody, relax.
It's, a,
Calm down."
it's an ass kicker at 60. What'd you say, 61?
Yeah, he's like 61, 62. I couldn't believe it. I was blown away. But yeah, I just to me it's just amazing that the genre has come like this far. I mean, to the point where like I mean, honestly, I could see your thing as a movie or
Yeah.
as like a TV show. Have you gotten any interest or anything like that or
No, nothing yet. But I think a lot of it, like being, ultra, like I said, still in that, the furthest reaches of like the indie circle.
sure.
Once word starts to get off, get out even more, maybe then. But right now, it's just like, hey, here's this book. Because every convention I go to, inevitably, the majority of the people that stop by, they're like, wait, what's this? We've never heard of this. How many
Yeah.
issues you got now? 5 issues. Why haven't I heard of this? And I'm like,
Yeah.
there it is. That's
So
tell
are
your
you
friends. That kind of.
are you being just distributed locally at this point, or are you
No,
in
well,
Diamond, or?
no, we're not in Diamond. I'll probably go to Diamond for like the trade and
Uh
stuff.
huh.
Maybe. I haven't done the research on the trade yet. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, I might just go through Amazon where you can, hey, here it is, upload it. I don't,
Sure.
nothing out of pocket. And then, they just print on demand for that.
Oh, does
Um,
Amazon do print on demand now?
yeah, they,
That's
I can't,
insane.
yeah, I can't remember what the name of it, Create Space, I think is
Oh,
Amazon's.
Create Space,
And
huh?
that's, yeah, if you got all the digital files, the PDFs and all that, send that to them and they'll, you have to format it properly.
Yeah.
And then if anybody wants to buy it, like say if you have like a $10 book, you get maybe $3 for it. You don't
Sure,
get a
sure.
lot,
You get something.
but yeah, but you're also you don't have to pay for the printing, you don't have to pay for shipping on that,
Yeah.
and it never goes out of print.
Oh,
That's
that's
that's one
great.
of the benefits for that. But then the
Sure.
downside is um, trying to get it into comic book stores. You might have to take a hit if you want to sell it to them.
Sure. I mean, don't you have to have a certain number at this point of like guaranteed orders for Diamond or something like that?
Oh,
Or
Diamond, yeah, definitely you have to do that. And that's you word of mouth, advertising, all of that, and they'll also kind of put it whenever they put it in their catalog.
yeah.
Based on the orders from there, then they'll tell you, hey, we need 2,000 books or we need 1,500, whatever it is for a trade. Uh,
Sure.
they'll tell you that, and then they'll say, yeah, and we want to order 500 more, something like that.
Sure.
On the flip side, if they accept it and they don't get any of those orders for it, they'll cancel it and say, no, unfortunately, it didn't work out. Which I can completely understand. They're not in it to, hey, we're gonna build you up. They want to make money. End of the.
Yeah. But still, I mean, it's a really risky endeavor for like an indie creator. I
Oh yeah,
mean,
yeah.
oh wow. So there's only one issue left. How far along are you guys with that?
Well, working on the artwork now.
Yeah.
Andy is now the proud father of
Uh
his
oh.
fourth kid. So
4?
yeah,
And he
so
was able to do this?
yeah,
I've got one and I can't even.
he's got his hands full.
That's amazing.
Yep. So but we're working on it. So it's we're hoping to get it out within, like I said, within that 2 month to 2.5 month time frame.
And you're planning on a trade for sure?
Yeah, that's the idea with it. But like I said, I haven't done any of the research for it. Right now, it's like I got to get get that sixth issue out, get it out. But yeah, I mean, I've always because I know there's a growing number of comic book readers who only read in trade. So I mean, if I didn't do
Yeah.
that, I would be even trying to get that the book out there. I would be leaving money on the table, essentially.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
especially like nowadays, you go through Amazon, something like that, where people are reading rather than buying each individual issue and then having to pay for postage on that. They can just buy one, and it's one and done. And I think, and it's such a great story to read it all at once. I think you
yeah,
really, like you said, you read issues 1 through 4 and were hooked on it.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does keep getting better as it goes along for
Yeah.
sure. I guess. Well, did it? So I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I got the answer to the earlier question. Was is like, are you just like distributing it yourself
Oh
at this
yeah,
point?
yeah. Right
So
now, yeah, we're definitely distributing ourselves, but there's about 23 stores in the U.S. and 2 in Canada that they're on board with, like some of them, just picked up #1. Some of them have picked up all 5 issues. And so, I mean, so we're, like I said, in 25 stores, if people go to the website at bigfootcomic.com, they'll see which stores have it. But then also we have the online store. Like if anybody's not around any of those stores, they can contact me directly and order them directly from our Store Envy site.
oh, that's great. That's great. And are you offering them digitally as well right now?
Right now, we have the first issue is available digitally,
Uh-huh.
but it's not at Comixology. It's on Amazon. It's on Nook,
Ah,
a
gotcha.
couple of others. But that one's kind of I don't really hype that one as much, just because Comixology is kind of where it's at. You
Yeah,
get it
yeah.
on there.
Yeah, I just looked at the site, Amazon, iTunes, and graphically.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see. That's great. So, what? Why not Comixology yet?
What I want to do with that, and this all this ties into, like I said, right now being kind of that new guy,
Yeah.
that new guy with no name. And right now, I'm
Yeah.
slowly getting it out there, getting more press on it. And what I want to do with Comixology is once I have all 6 issues done, I want to then take it to them and say, hey, let's do kind of like that Netflix kind of model where it's here it is all at once, and then people can buy
Mm.
all 6 issues
Oh,
one
that's
time,
great.
rather than trying to like dole out. Here's the first issue. Okay, 2 months down the road, here's the second issue. Because I think as an indie, people kind of lose that like, oh hey, I forgot all about that first issue. What issue are they on now? Oh, they're on the third issue. I'll get to it later on. But if you
Sure.
have, hey, here's all of them, I think they're more inclined to pick that up and then go, wow, this is really great. What else you
Oh,
got? That kind of thing.
that's great. And so, with when the sixth issue is done, are you done with Bigfoot, or
I
are
would
you think?
love for it to continue. Um, but right now, I mean, there'll definitely be a break between, like the 6 issue and anything coming down the road. I haven't even written anything. I have ideas. I've plotted out some stuff, but I haven't written the official, hey, here's issue #7 or issue #1 of the next, series. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I would love for Bigfoot to continue. And right now, like I said, right now it's all getting the word out, getting people excited about it, and continuing it on. But in
Oh,
the meantime, I've also written a couple of other things that I'm just getting into that. Okay, now we're in that maybe search for an artist phase, or
gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Any hint on what those might be about, or what you're?
uh,
Are you just keeping it close to the vest?
yeah, kind of keeping it close for. I mean, both of them are kind of neat. One of them, uh, I love muscle cars, and
Ah,
Americana, so it involves that somewhat.
yeah.
So that's
Have
about
you?
it. I don't want to give it away because it's. I mean, I think it's
No,
an
of
awesome
course not.
idea, but
No, I
that's
mean
me.
that's great. So what are some of the things that you would recommend? I mean, I know you've mentioned some websites, but are there any books or like comics that you're reading for like people out there who are either interested in something different or, or just learning how to create their own comics besides the websites? Like I know you took a class, but were there any books or any other resources that
uh,
you went to or
yeah, there were no other books that I was reading right now. I know there's a ton of them coming out. Now I think Bendis, he's coming out with his book. I don't think
Oh,
it's
is
out
he
yet.
really?
That's what I don't quote me on that, but I think I read something about that about writing comic books.
Oh, wow.
So I know there's that. But yeah, I really didn't look at like tutorials on how to write a comic book, other than like through the class. And then the some of the like a lot of the trades nowadays will have like scripts in them that you can like. I want to say Matt Fraction has some in his.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
people can always pick that up as far as the format goes. And then even just researching, like, Jim, I believe his last name Zubkovich, goes by Jim Zub on Twitter. He does, I know he's doing some stuff for Dynamite nowadays. He does, if you follow Jim Zub on Twitter, he's always posting stuff on, how to write, what are the financials involved with any of his books. So, I mean, he's another great resource to
Oh, wow. That's
John,
great.
too.
And then, so what are you reading just in general, like as far as comics go?
Right now, I'm reading, I read a great book, a great horror book that I picked up at Amazing Arizona. It's called Insanity, Arizona. It's by about 4 other writers, and people can buy that. You can go online, Insanity, Arizona. It's James Nines, Joe Pizzula, the other authors, I'm blanking on their name, Mike Fountain, and God, I can't remember the fourth guy. But yeah, that's a great horror book that's it's basically about insanity, but it's not your typical serial killer book. And it's about
called Insanity, Arizona?
Insanity, Arizona. Or Insanity.
Sanity.
Yeah, Insanity AZ.
Oh, okay. I just looked up in Insanity, Arizona, and I got like a bunch of like court cases. Oh, Insanity.
Yeah, that's oh,
here we go. Insanity AZ. Yeah. Oh, it's on it's a Kickstarter. They got a Kickstarter campaign.
They originally did got it through Kickstarter, and now the book is out. The book came out, I want to say October of 2013. So now they're making the convention circuit as well. So I met those guys, and I picked up the book, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's really cool. Well, I got to say, I really enjoyed your book. I mean, I really enjoy it, present tense. I think it's been a really fun read. And obviously, it's the sort of thing that just shows somebody like with a passion for what they're doing, who wants to really accomplish and fulfill a story, and just kind of also knows how to put together a really good looking project. I mean, I think you've done really well. So I got to say, that I think this is a book to look out for. I think it's the sort of thing that if you get the right attention from the right people, I think it could be, it could explode into something, much larger than what you've got now. So,
well, fingers crossed, man. We're trying to get it out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, and anyone who's out there should definitely check it out. And what's the website again? Bigfoot Comic?
Yep, bigfootcomic.com.
Bigfootcomic.com. And that's great. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, and your name is Josh S. Henaman, and your comic is Bigfoot, Sword of the Earthman. And you got to let me know when the next issue comes out, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I will pay for it. You keep sending me stuff for free, but I'm like, this stuff is really good. This stuff does not grow on trees. Yeah. It's really good stuff.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you.
No, absolutely. Well, this has been another episode of Part-Time Fanboy. Please go to bigfootcomic.com and check out Bigfoot, Sword of the Earthman. And my name is Kristian Horn, and hopefully we'll be back here next week or a week or two with another episode of Part-Time Fanboy. Thank you very much. Oh, are you going to be at any conventions before I sign off?
Yeah, I will be at the next one coming up is WonderCon.
Awesome. Cool. Yep. Do you have a booth yet?
Yeah, I do. They just announced the let me see if I have it real quick. No, it's down. They just sent out the table number. But I'll have that, I'll be tweeting that, in a matter of days.
Definitely. Oh, so what's your Twitter handle too?
It's Josh S. Henaman, and that's
okay.
Henaman.
Cool. Well, great. And again, thanks for coming on Part-Time.
Oh no, thanks for having me, man. This was awesome.
We will be keeping a lookout for your next book, and I will absolutely buy that trade because it's fantastic.
All right, excellent.
Part-Time Fanboy.